previous 2 days at the Supreme Court in Kampala have been dramatic, exposing controversies in the highest court of the land as Justice Dr. Chisache accused the Chief Justice of trying to gag her as she was set to give her ruling, accusing him of confiscating her file.
That my file has been confiscated, is still being confiscated by none other than the Chief Justice of Uganda.
This has brought questions into the independence of the judiciary and justices as they rule over matters especially of national importance, like the election petition filed by Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, challenging President Museveni, which was later withdrawn on accusations of bias, especially from the Chief Justice. Speaking to opposition politicians, this intimate that this has exposed the judiciary, bringing questions into the competence of the justices nominated for the bench.
Because in this case, the judge said, I want to give dissenting reasons. And that's why she has been treated the way she has been treated. So even my knowledge of how that court works has now been broadened. So you go to that court at your own risk. But also the actions, the administrative actions that followed, that the judge declared unconstitutional, that a court must be locked because there is a disagreement among the judges. So the public can't access court, the lawyers can't access it. Disagreement resulting into closure of court, confiscation of judgments, I think has eroded the confidence, if there was any, in that court.
Because that takes away the legitimacy of the judiciary being independent. Now the public opinion comes in.
To him, the controversies surrounding the court depict the circumstances in which the petitioner of the 2021 presidential election has treated the case, having realized no justice could prevail.
I don't see the courage among judges that you'll have judges who will tell Museveni that your election is nullified. But I think they now justify everything that the Honorable Kyagulanyi did. Because if you said this court will not give me justice, and the same court can't give justice even to itself, how can it give it to another person? That they are there quarreling, and then judges quarreling amongst themselves. Now imagine when you are an outsider subjecting yourself to their jurisdiction.
For the Bugweri County Member of Parliament, also a senior lawyer, Abdul Katuntu, the unfortunate circumstances have denied people chance to understand the dissenting ruling of Justice Chisache, having shifted the debate to the unbecoming behaviors of the administrators of court.
Because whereas we should be debating the decisions of the court, the merits of judgments, the merits of the ruling, what I find not correct is to have us now debate the behavior of judges.
Although calls of action from the Judicial Service Commission have been aired out, to some this will equate to no efforts.
So I really pray that the Honorable Justice Capito, Chairman of the Judicial Service Commission, and other members should take interest in this matter.
We actually intend as the National Unity Platform to write to the Judicial Service Commission to investigate the character and conduct of the Chief Justice.
All these things are going to be investigated and thrown away.
In a letter dated 19th March 2021, written by the Communications Department of the Judiciary, these have denied the allegations levied against the Chief Justice of confiscating Dr. Chisache's file in trying to gag her. Shamim Nabakoza, for Speak Uganda, Record TV.
Like we have been saying in the past, that we were not wrong at all to withdraw our case from the Supreme Court and take it back to the Court of the People. We know many people criticized us, politicians, leaders, religious leaders, and we were even shocked to be criticized by the Uganda Law Society. But now it is clear to all of them that indeed the Supreme Court has lost its credibility. The Chief Justice stripped the judiciary of the mask that it had been wearing. General Museveni, using the Chief Justice, has continued to expose the Supreme Court, how unfair, how biased it is. We informed the nation that it's because of the conduct and the comments of the Chief Justice that we were forced to withdraw the petition from the Supreme Court. But we are very glad that even Justice Chisache went further to show the world the truth. Now we all know the truth. We saw the impunity that was shown in the Supreme Court, where the Chief Justice went as far as confiscating a file of another justice of the Supreme Court. They were trying so much to hide the truth from the people. Like we've been saying, that not all is lost in our judicial system, that much as we have a judiciary that is headed by a compromised character, the Chief Justice Owiny-Doro, at least we still have some noble judicial officers that are willing to stand by the law, to defend the Constitution, and to defend their judicial oath. So we want to salute Justice Chisache and all the judicial officers that still are worth their honor. We want them to know that the world will remember them as officers that stood by the law, that stood by their morality. But again, it should communicate to us further that we have a rotten judicial system. We actually intend, as the National Unity Platform, to write to the Judicial Service Commission to investigate the character and conduct of the Chief Justice Owiny-Doro, because he ashamed the judicial system, and such character should be investigated. The most honorable thing that I would expect Chief Justice Owiny-Doro to do is to resign. If he still takes his honor seriously, if he still takes morality seriously, if he still respects the law, the most honorable thing he can do and should do is to resign.
Turning up in a total of 8 justices of the Supreme Court, with 1 Justice Chisache missing on the panel, these made their way to court to give the detailed ruling on the Male Mabirizi application. Male Mabirizi, a city lawyer, petitioned court asking the Chief Justice to recuse himself from the Chagulanyum 7 petition, having been a litigant for Museveni in an election petition. In his detailed ruling today, Chief Justice Alfonso Owiny-Dolo reasoned the decision of not recusing himself, citing that the applicant was not party to the election petition and that he did not seek for a window to be added onto the election petition.
Applying the literal rule of interpretation to the provisions of the law in issue, since it is couched in plain language, devoid of any absurdity or ambiguity, it is unmistakably clear that the locus to move court for the recusal of a judicial officer is exclusively vested in any party to the proceedings. I am unable to appreciate how, even with a most liberal construction of the provision in issue, one could extend this to grant locus to a person who is not a party to the suit or proceeding.
He cites that Mabirizi also failed to give evidence on the alleged bias.
In this case, the applicant, not having been a presidential candidate, was neither a party to presidential election petition number 1 of 2021, now before this court, nor was he granted locus as an intervener in the petition.
The Chief Justice have agreed to the meetings with the first respondent, Museveni, attributing it to the invitation from the Church of Uganda bishop, and that the joy he possessed is due to the Janan Lumu commemoration and the roles accorded to him as a Chief Justice that cannot be delegated.
Apart from the applicant finding fault with my happiness at the function and my having stood next to the President during the official photo appearance after the service, the applicant presents no other basis for the alleged apprehension of bias. Indeed, I find the applicant's faulting of my attendance of this event and my evident joy at the occasion quite pedestrian, unfortunate, and most unreasonable. I attended the function not to mourn, but to rejoice and pay homage to the Lord God for his goodness.
Before court gave its ruling, Mabirizi wrote to the Chief Justice arresting the ruling until the decision of the East African Court is given on recusal. This created controversy.
Today I'm arresting your ruling in Mrs. Application number 3 of 2021.
You said this morning you wrote a letter arresting the ruling. Do you have powers to arrest a ruling? You made your submissions on your application asking me to recuse myself. I made a ruling that day. You did not arrest my making a ruling.
To Mabirizi, the ruling is illegal and that he is set to challenge it in the East African Court.
The fact that you were his lawyer, he has promoted you to several positions. He made you a judge, he made you a court of justice of appeal, he made you a deputy chief, now a chief justice. And now you are telling us that actually you can do justice. So this ruling is illegal and the process is illegal. We are going to add it on our East African Court list because already we have challenged his decision to refuse to choose. Now the court is also going to get this one.
Tomorrow, the Supreme Court will deliver a detailed ruling on why they allowed Kyagulanyi to withdraw his election petition against President Museveni. Shamim Nawakoza, Paul Musoke for Speak Uganda, Record TV. Last evening, Kyagulanyi Robert Sentamu, the NUP president, led protests in the city centre against the continued kidnap and detention of their supporters, which caused his arrest and 8 others subscribing to the party. In a press conference today, Kyagulanyi has vowed to continue exerting pressure to have the kidnapped Ugandans freed. To him, the persistence on peaceful protests will deliver the call for freedom of the incarcerated.
All of you, ladies and gentlemen, to continue protesting peacefully. It is a right, and as things look, it is the most potent. That is what dictatorships fear most. Museveni fears people coming out to protest more than he fears guns.
Kyagulanyi used the event to respond to the allegations of vote rigging by President Museveni, which he lodged while addressing the nation on Sunday. The opposition figure says the allegations justify unfairness in the election, tasking the president to have a rerun or audit the elections.
General Museveni claimed that we rigged the election using the police. General Museveni said we ballot stuffed. I want to challenge him to bring the evidence. But again, that brings more sense to our demand for an audit into the 2021 election. It must be audited.
Following the protests against the kidnaps that are taking a toll on the country, the former presidential candidate has petitioned the Commander of Defence Forces, General David Muhoozi, and the Minister for Defence to release the detained supporters with immediate effect. He conditions that if the military fails to put this into actions, he has warned to have intensified protests.
We are going to deliver a letter demanding for our people. We are going to deliver that letter to the Chief of Defence Forces, General David Muhoozi, and to the Ministry of Defence. We want to call on them to release our people that have been arrested, that continue to be abducted by the military, and to put them on notice that should our people not be released, then we shall continue protesting peacefully because it is within the law.
Shortly after declaring the intention to move to the military headquarters to take the petition, security was intensified at the Kamwokya-based party with the military and police deployed. After hours of waiting on Kyagulanyi, he surfaced in a car and immediately security surrounded him, pronouncing his arrest, which deterred him from moving to the military headquarters.
Yes, Honorable. Yes. Good afternoon. Good. Can you come out of your vehicle? Yes. Excellent. Excellent. And we go home, eh?
I'm going to my home. Why don't I talk to you? Why don't you go and talk?
You are very safe.
Other leaders of the party, including the NUP spokesperson Joel Senyonyi, the vice president for the northern region, Dr. Lina Zedriga, among others, proceeded to the headquarters. However, here they were denied entrance, sending a 1 Lieutenant Colonel Masolo to receive the petition on behalf of the CDF.
We got information. So they had sent a 1 Lieutenant Colonel Masolo who received this letter on behalf of the CDF and the Minister for Defense. He has signed acknowledgement because that was important for us. We are hoping that this demand letter will get to the CDF and also get to the Minister for Defense, so that ultimately we get to see the release of people who are being abducted.
The threat to intensify protests comes after allegations of President Museveni accusing the opposition of intending to sabotage the swearing ceremony slated for May. Shamim Nabakoza, Paul Musoke for Speak Uganda, Record TV.
After withdrawing a presidential election petition from the Supreme Court, the former presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu has today reported his grievances to the Parliament of Uganda. Kyagulanyi, who attended his first sitting today, was allowed to make a personal statement in which he disputed the integrity in the 2021 elections.
The campaigns were filled with unprecedented levels of state-inspired violence and brutality, where very many of our supporters were murdered, many were maimed, while others sustained grave injuries. That happened before the election, during and after the elections.
He tasked Parliament to rise up and stop the serial abduction of Ugandans affiliated to his National Unity Platform party by security agencies.
Madam Speaker, as we comfortably sit in this august house, I want to remind all of us that Ugandans are being abducted on a daily basis by security operatives in notorious vans called drones. They are being held in unknown detention centers, in military barracks, and indeed in many unknown places, torture chambers across the country.
The NUP President General narrated the ordeal of his supporters who have been badly tortured in detention and others sexually harassed in custody.
Some of our people have been castrated, Madam Speaker. Yes, they've been castrated. Others have had their eyes and fingernails plucked out. Their limbs have been broken and they've been subjected to advanced forms of torture like waterboarding and electrocution. Madam Speaker, several of our female supporters have been raped in detention.
He questioned the detention of political prisoners without trial in disregard of the supreme law of the land.
And they were being tried, they are still being tried in military courts. And we wonder why political prisoners, Madam Speaker, who are civilians, are being tried in military courts.
Kyagulanyi thus asked Parliament to pass a resolution directing the government to release all inmates arrested for political reasons and also stop trial of civilians in military courts.
I once again, therefore, Madam Speaker, want to request this Parliament to order for the immediate release of the abducted people and all political prisoners. Ugandans are demanding that the security forces return our people, dead or alive.
Bobi Wine teased Parliament when he expressed his hope that he will soon address the August Assembly in the capacity of the President. The Speaker, Rebecca Kadaga, has referred the matter to the Parliamentary Committee of Human Rights, which is investigating election violence.
Madam Speaker, I am not sure how many more times I'll have the opportunity to address this Parliament as a Member of Parliament. Hopefully the next time I address this Parliament, I'll be President. But I want to remind all of us, honorable members, that we can choose either to be seen as a Parliament that does not care about the people, or to be seen as a Parliament that is indeed elected into these positions to stand and protect the rights of our people. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. As far as your being in the House is concerned, you are a member until the 10th Parliament expires. Concerning the other one, I have no idea, but the statement will be sent to the Committee on Human Rights, which is already investigating issues concerning the elections. Thank you very much.
Report compiled by Fred Kajibi for Speak Uganda, Record TV. A number amounting to 20 journalists were battered on the 17th February 2021 by the military police while covering the former presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, who was delivering a petition to the United Nations Human Rights Commission protesting the human rights violation that's left many with injuries. At the Kampala High Court today, battered journalists filed a case seeking court to declare that The actions of the military officers who beat them up contravened their media freedom and freedom of expression and other rights enshrined in the Ugandan constitution. This urged that the conduct of the respondents prevented them from executing their work as expected and want the court to hold the respondents liable for human rights violation and misconduct of their duties.
It was very sad. It's unacceptable to some legal minds like me. It's unfortunate what happened to these journalists and others out there. We understand they're out. So the impunity is a political problem. It needs a political solution. But the brutality specifically is a legal issue that courts must handle. And that's why we are in this court.
In the evidence, the applicants implicate Lieutenant Colonel Napoleon for commanding what they describe as a violent gang to assault them in the course of their duties while in the safe coverage zone. These want court to hold Chapenda accountable, having been the commander of the operation.
What we need is total justice, and that's why we are having the commander as one of the respondents in this case, so that the men in uniform, they should know that as you inflict this pain over a journalist, so that they know that as you go to brutalize journalists as they're practicing their work, you will be punished and then you'll be accountable as an individual.
Through their lawyers led by Aaron Kiza, the journalists also want the government and Lieutenant Colonel Amanya to compensate them for the general and exemplary damages as well as costs of the suit.
They need substantial and significant compensation because they were disrupted from doing their work and they are injured and they are nursing injuries and some of them are no longer working.
The military paraded officers purported to have meted out violence on the journalists. This believe the act is not enough to compel its officers to the discipline. To date, many journalists are in wheelchairs after being battered while practicing their duties, most being evident in the recently concluded elections. This now await court to set hearing of the matter. Report compiled by Shamim Nabakwas and Paul Musoke for Speak Uganda, Record TV.
30 minutes past 10 a.m., the 9 justices hearing the electoral petition challenging the victory of Yoweri Habura Museveni made their way to court fronted by the Chief Justice of Uganda, Alfonso Winyedolo, with readiness to start the hearing of the application by Kyagulanyi to withdraw the petition of allegations of bias from the Supreme Court judges. The lawyer to the petitioner, Medad Lubega Segona, informed court that their practicing certificates had expired and renewal had been delayed by the Law Council. The said certificates give audience to a lawyer in the courts of law. The Chief Justice put Segona to task to explain whether he had informed the registrar.
It is not in our practice to operate outside the law, but we are also cognizant of the fact that this matter requires an expeditious resolution.
Did you take it up with the Chief Registrar that I am handling a matter of public importance, very important for my country, so that special considerations would be given to you and your team to prosecute
No, my Lord.
This petition?
No, my Lord. I did not take it up with the Chief Registrar because, like I have just said, it did not cross my mind then until later, the later part of yesterday, as I was going through this and preparing, that it crossed my mind, and I thought I would have to raise it.
For the Attorney General, he referred the matter to powers accorded to the justices in the Judicial Act to rule over the matters of any kind, though his team had certificates of practice.
My Lord, we are looking at this section as an avenue that the court may use and its general powers granted to it by the Constitution.
And give audience to counsel who does not have the certificate?
If the
Is that what you're suggesting?
No. In the alternative, my lords, of course, we are going to suggest that if this court deems it fit, and on the assumption, as counsel has already said, on the assumption that the only item remaining was the registrar giving him clearances, that is presupposing that he has done everything else that needs to be done prior to that. Then, of course, my Lord, we would have no objection to a short adjournment for him to finalize with the registrar, and that this court resumes.
Learned Counsel Lubega, how many people represent?
The Chief Justice ruled adjourning the matter to allow lawyers right to the Supreme Court's registry to issue temporary practicing certificates to the 3 lawyers representing Kyagulanyi, adjourning the matter to tomorrow.
We give you up to 5 o'clock today to obtain practicing certificate. And we're making it easy for you in case you are not yet done the other things which are required. I'm directing the Chief Registrar to give you temporary practicing certificate that will expire on the 18th of this month for purposes of prosecuting this petition, so that the petitioner is not disadvantaged. We will resume tomorrow, 9:30 in the morning.
The interim lawyer, Oscar Kihika, has expounded on the processes to acquire the practicing certificates.
A temporary one from the registrar, because it is permitted. It would be unprofessional for me to proceed without bringing this out.
Remember, you're not the only one. That's why I mentioned the 1,000 plus number of advocates that we have. There are many others. So those agencies during this period of time can be very busy, and sometimes you get caught up in the backlog.
The law provides that every advocate must have a practicing certificate renewable after 1 year and is issued by the Law Council. However, advocates are given a grace period of up to 1st March of every new year to have acquired their new practicing certificates. In the 2021 presidential election petition, Kyagulanyi challenges the victory of President Museveni, seeking court to nullify the election and also order for a re-election. Shamim Nawakoza for Speak Uganda, Record TV.
The matter of the former First Lady Madina Amin was brought to the attention of Parliament by the Chairman Municipality Member of Parliament Ibrahim Semjunganda, saying the former wife of President Idi Amin Dada is struggling with medical bills in one hospital where her child is receiving treatment.
The urgent matter is for government to go and help her before this country gets embarrassed that a wife of former president cannot pay bills. The substantive issues for which government should come here and explain is why this former First Lady and the Idi Amin family are being treated differently, to the extent that the former First Lady can't pay a bill of a few million shillings.
Semju informed the House that Madina is not yet even receiving monthly emoluments which are entitled to families of the former presidents under the Presidential Emoluments Act. He complained that government discriminates Amin's family by denying it its emoluments, yet families of the former presidents get their entitlement.
The family of late President Milton Obote, their houses were returned, and also under the Presidential Emoluments Act, they get their entitlement. Why is the family of Idi Amin being discriminated against? Government, and I think the Minister for Presidents and Public Service, they will need to come to this Parliament and explain the implementation of that particular law, the Presidential Emoluments Act regarding former presidents. Do they select who they give? Is that at the discretion of the Minister for Presidents and Public Service, or the law is supposed to be implemented as it is, even if you're a president for 1 hour?
Government through the Chief Whip Ruth Kabira and the State Minister of Public Service David Karubanga communicated before Parliament to take instant action to save the former First Lady and save the country from an embarrassment.
Standing here to commit myself to pursue this very urgent matter, to make sure that Mama Madina is assisted like the President has been giving a hand to many Ugandans. And I believe, Right Honorable Speaker, that once the President gets this information, he will have to come in and help on this immediate need.
But the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Olanya, directed the Minister of Public Service to make a ministerial statement before the Parliament to explain the state of implementation of the Presidential Emoluments Act and details of the beneficiaries.
Can you come and brief us what the processes are? Who have been the beneficiaries so far? And what is the plan for, it's something comprehensive so that if we need to have a debate on it, this time a ministerial statement, not just a response to a question.
Right Honorable Speaker, I promise we will come with a statement on this issue within 2 weeks.
Madina Amin was the 4th wife of President Idi Amin. The Parliament of Uganda approved the emoluments and benefits of the President, Vice President and Prime Minister Bill 2009, governing the salaries, allowances and retirement benefits of those officials as well as entitlements of the surviving family members. Report compiled by Fred Kijwi for Speak Uganda, Record TV.
Ng'ennaku za mwezi 17 omwezi oguwedde bannamawulire abasoba mu 17 bakubwa bannamagye bwe bali bakwata ebifaananyi byeyavuganyako ku ntebe ya pulezidenti Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu bwe yali atute okuwaabwa kwe ku kitebe ky'amawanga amagatte ki United Nations Human Rights Commission nga yeemulugunya ku kutyobula eddembe ly'obuntu okwali kukutte ejjembe mu ggwanga nga kino kyaleka abangi nga banyiga biwondo. Olwaleero abaakubwa beekubidde enduulu mu kkooti enkulu mu Kampala ku bulumbaganyi obwabatuusibwako okusinza ku munnamateeka Aaron Kiiza. Bano bawaabidde ssaabawolereza wa gavumenti ne munnamagye Lieutenant Colonel Napoleon Kyabihende bajje mu bunnambiro binyonyoleko.
So abamawulire okusinga bano abali wano basaba gavumenti ne Napoleon babakiite babawe compensation ate ne kkooti eragirire nti ekyabaawo kyali nga kimenya amateeka.
Mu musango guno bannamawulire mbagala kkooti essekkomo ku bannamagye abagufuula omugano okutimbula bannamawulire nga bali ku mirimu gyabwe okutuusa n'okubalemeza nga lamu ku ssaawa ya leero bangi batambulira mu bugaali. Bannamawulire era asibamativu n'engeri bannamagye gye bakangavulwamu abagambibwa okukola ebikolwa bino eby'effujjo.
Enjere gye bavunaana abantu baali wansi ya Napoleon ate Napoleon yabadumira ne batamuvunaana. Olaba nti mwali mu propaganda naye nga si bya bwenkanya.
Bonna bagamba nti n'ebizze byogerwa nti ebitongole ebikuumaddembe nga bwe byagala okubayirira babiwulira mu nkuubo wabula ng'ekisinga okubaluma kwe kulengeza omulimu gwabwe okutuuka okubayisa ng'ekitagasa. Bano wabula baakasa nti kkooti yakubawa obwenkanya.
Amagye bye gaayogera gaakoma ku byogerako bwogezi ku ffenna tekuli yatuukiridwa nti oba kwogerezeganya oba nakutulambula bulumi obwatutuusibwako. So ekyo kikulaga level nti si beetegefu oba oliawo okutwengeejinga tusobole okwogerezeganya tumanye ki kye tukomako.
Nsuubira nti lino ly'eddala erisooka okulaba nga tufuna obwenkanya obwannamaddala. Tetwagala bwenkanya bukabula, twagala obwenkanya obwenkomeredde.
Gyevuddeko kkooti yalagira gavumenti okuyirira munnamawulire Twaha Mukiibi olw'effujjo eryamukolebwako abakuumaddembe bwe bamutimpula.
Bwe nakubwa bwe nafuna obuzibu nagenda mu kkooti era kkooti neesala bulungi nnyo nekkiriza okubeera nti ndiirirwa. N'olwekyo njagala mubeere bavumu nti bwe bakuba abantu bano tubatwale tubaloope kubanga olwaliro amateeka gakyuka namu. Tuloopa muntu tetuloopa bitongole. Ekitongole okiroopa olutwala Attorney General naye ate n'omutwala ng'omuntu kubanga batukubanga bantu.
Kati ekirindiriddwa ye kkooti okuteekawo olunaku olw'okuwulira emisango gino. Shamim n'abakozi yakusakidde gweno Crown Wali, Rocket TV.
With pressures mounting high only 13 days to the elections, allegations of vote rigging are still flying high. Today, the National Unity Platform presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, during his address to the nation, has revealed that the party has come up with an application that will be used to tally votes. To Kyagulanyi, this will help solve the issues of vote rigging.
And to take this opportunity to announce to the nation and to the world that for the last few months we have been building an application that will help us bring together the results of this election. That application is called You Vote, and you will be able to access it from Google Play Store in the next few hours. This application will help us ensure that we tighten every noose that the dictatorship was trying to use to rig our vote.
Kyagulanyi, who is vying for the top seat, explained how the application that is dubbed You Vote works. He argues that the application can be used by anyone with pictorial information, audios and videos. This has he called for vigilance from voters, urging them to record especially the declaration of results and ensuring that they stay closer as the vote counting happens.
With that application, you ensure that you get the declaration form and send it to that app. You take a picture of the DR form and send it to that app. I want to also ask you, on the day of elections, the 14th of January 2021, please make sure you record the proceedings, but most importantly, that particular time when the returning officer is announcing the result, make sure you capture that. Make sure you capture that particular moment. I know that we are very many Ugandans, and I know that we can do that as a nation, as a population.
Kyagulanyi, however, alleges that they have received information that fake tallying centers are mushrooming in several areas.
That they have already arranged fake tally centers in Mbuya barracks and other military centers. We know that they have carried out and they continue to carry out massive arrests. So prepare for that. Also know that they are intending to announce results very late. We want to appeal to you, Mr. Byabakama, and the Electoral Commission, and at the same time warn you that the people of Uganda are not going to accept that.
It's here that he has reiterated the need for Ugandans to come up in large numbers to vote, citing that it's crucial for them to determine the next leadership of this country. The opposition candidate has called for peace as many head out to vote.
I told you before, we tell you again, that be non-violent, be peaceful, but be assertive. Your right is your right, and nobody can and should take away that right.
Over the years, allegations of vote rigging have taken center stage, with many petitioning courts of law. Shamim Nawakoza, Mustafa Semgenze for Speak Uganda, Record TV. Renowned musician Bobi Wine, real names Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, initiated himself to politics way back through his songs, some that spoke so much to democracy and the state of politics in Uganda. Later on, the singer joined politics through a by-election in Kyadondo East that saw FDC's Apollo Kantinti ousted out of parliament, since becoming a legislator.
I, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert, swear.
His debut into the public eye as a possible challenger to government was his arrest during the Arua by-election that caused tension worldwide, with demonstrations mounting, hence the hashtag Free Bobi Wine. Kyagulanyi was arraigned before courts and charged with treason after the loss of his driver, who was gunned down in Arua. His first appearance later on was to declare his intentions to challenge President Museveni on the ballot in 2021. Since then, the opposition strongman has been arrested several times and alleges security agencies want to take his life. In the recent times is the scuffle in Kayunga, where what is believed to have been a grenade nearly hit his head, destroying the windscreen for his car. Once bitten is twice shy. From that time, the presidential candidate returned wearing a bulletproof while campaigning. To date,
nze okutuuka okutambula nga nyambadde bulletproof kya buswavu eri akakiiko k'ebyokulonda, kya buswavu n'eri ebitongole ebikuumaddembe, kubanga mwena bannayuganda mukirabye nga banneegezezaamu okunzita emirundi egisukkamu ebiri.
Questions arise into the process of democracy when a candidate who has cheated death several times dons a body armor as he rallies voters for support. Many would want to call this a show or a coward move for the candidate, but what do the security experts have to say?
It's not. I wouldn't look at it as cowardice. I'm looking at him as getting wiser now. He's facing the realities of life. So, in the process, it is very important that whoever tailors his security should do his maximum.
Security expert and private investigator expounds more on why Kyagulanyi needed the bulletproof, relating the lack of protocol on who meets the candidate. Prompting him on why Kyagulanyi and not the 4 times presidential candidate Dr. Kizza Besigye, who has equally faced the same wrath of security, this is what he highlighted.
During the BCJ campaigns, I don't remember that at any one time, at any one day, we lost 5 people. But I think this time we lost like 40, 50, I don't know.
In his last summon to answer on allegations of violation of COVID-19 guidelines by Justice Simon Byabakama, the candidate appeared in a bulletproof, although he had been called for a table engagement. Being directly under the elections superintendent, the Electoral Commission, we probed to find out whether the allegations of targeting the candidate's life does not worry them.
I think one of the things that we recognize as Electoral Commission when we're organizing elections is the security factor, and for that reason we facilitate candidates with the security. We provide security to them. Of course, also our other concern has come in when during the course of campaigns there have been confrontations and posing, risk of physical injury to the candidate or even other persons. Feels that on their own they need to, improve on their security. It is within their rights to do that.
To the police, the allegation of chasing to put his life to an end are just a political talk aimed at acquiring a sympathy vote.
This is probably political talk or sloganeering that some of the candidates would wish to use to show that they are under very serious threat and aimed at attracting sympathy votes towards them. We are not going to fall in that trap.
As his supporters become more delicate to handle in uncertainty of the life of their principal, Ndebesa Mwambusha, a political science scholar, warns that the Bobi Wine ideology is not individualistic and that the state needs to be cautious with people whose ideology is change and not anything.
Tide of history, the wind of change, there is a wind of change on the table. What is on the table is thirst and desire for change, represented by the person of Kyagulanyi. So the Kyagulanyi idea, the Kyagulanyi wave, is a wave for change.
Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is second in line to give the incumbent President Museveni a run for his vote after FDC's strongman Dr. Kizza Besigye, who has challenged the president 4 times. Shamim Nabakoza, Paul Matavu for Speak Uganda, Record TV. Lawyers to the former presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu have notified the Supreme Court in Kampala of their intentions to sue President Museveni over the victory of the recent January 14th elections. The electoral results that saw President Museveni declared elect for a 6th term in office have been contested with allegations of being the most fraudulent in history.
The way courts operate, because if we choose to actually go the petition way, the deadline would have to be Monday. And so since there's a weekend and all of that, some of our lawyers said we don't want to leave any room for chance. So notify them such that if we choose to go that direction, they should be waiting for us, such that they don't say, but now you're coming on the last day, and that kind of things.
National Unity Platform spokesperson in which Kyagulanyi is the principal reveals that although there are contentions on which position to take considering that they do not have trust in the courts of law, there have been a series of meetings to resolve on the final decision, with the last one slated to take place tomorrow on whether to file a petition.
We're going to have a final one tomorrow, and then Monday we'll let the country know which direction we're going to take. There is, overwhelming evidence, and so the question now is, how do we use this? Do we just go to the court of public opinion and put it out there to expose the fraud that this election was? Do you go to court and use that avenue and all of that?
Although these are seemingly undecided, with time running out, they intimate that they have overwhelming evidence to annul the January polls in either courts of law or public opinion.
All of that, you see, legally, you depend on a number of, there's such a thing as admissible evidence. DR forms are admissible, and several other pieces of evidence that can be, adduced in court. So, yes, if we choose to say, let's go the petition way, all of that will be available. So you don't just rely on DR forms or You don't just rely on other pieces of evidence and throw out the DR forms,
Full-time presidential candidate on the Forum for Democratic Change party ticket, Dr. Kizza Besigye, petitioned against incumbent Yoweri Habura twice and vowed never to go back to courts of law as efforts to overturn results have yielded nothing. Speaking to the opposition chief whip in Parliament, Ibrahim Semujunganda says NEP should expect less from the judicial institution.
The courts in Uganda have lacked the courage to annul election results. I don't want to discourage my colleagues who want to go to court. Maybe sometimes it's better to put these matters on record. So we took a decision as an institution of the FDC never to take presidential results to court. But the colleagues who are going there, if there is any help we can offer as a party, we will offer it, including prayers. Maybe you never know. In Kenya, they nullified results, and in Zambia.
In 2006 elections, Dr. Kizza Besigye ran to Supreme Court after Engineer Badru Chigundu's Electoral Commission pronounced him first runner-up in the polls with a percentage of 37.36%, challenging the election of President Museveni, who garnered 59.28%, seeking annulment of the results. In the Supreme Court ruling, the justices found that there was no compliance with the provisions of the Constitution, the Presidential Elections Act and the Electoral Commission Act in the conduct of the 2016 elections. The principle of free and fair elections was also compromised by bribery and intimidations of violence in several areas of the country. According to the ruling, the principles of equal suffrage, transparency of the vote, secrecy of the ballot were undermined by multiple voting and vote stuffing in some areas. It was also discovered that the continued involvement of the forces in the conduct of elections caused for intimidation acts and violence. Although these were fundamental issues in the election, the judges dismissed the petition. The recent is the 2016 Amama Mbaba's petition, in which he sought annulment of a failure to abide by electoral laws that was also dismissed. The question remains on what the fate is likely to be for the petition against President Museveni. Shamim Nabakoza, for Speak Uganda, Record TV.
Categorically and unequivocally reject the manufactured results.
Bannamateeka ba NUP ekulirwa Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu bataddeyo ekiwandiiko mu kkooti ensukulumu ekitegeeza okubeera obulindaala nti essaawa yonna bakutwala omusango oguwakanya okulondebwa kwa President Museveni mu kalulu akawedde akaaliwo ng'ennaku z'omwezi 14 omwezi guno. Kyagulanyi nga yakwatira ekibiina kino bendera azze akyogera lwatu ng'akalulu akawedde bwe keetabamu emivuyo mingi era nti akakiiko k'ebyokulonda byonna bye kaalangira byali bijengerere.
Kubanga bwe tuba tusazeewo nti tugenda mu kooti olunaku olusembayo luba lwa bbalaza, so kati tuli mu weekend, tekiri mu sitaani bali kubateeka ku notice mugamba nti bwe tunaasalawo tugenda kujja mu kooti mutulindirire, temugamba nti ate kati olunaku lwe lusembayo n'ebirala. So kiba kirungi okubateeka ku notice kubanga kooti ezikola ku weekend, Saturday, Sunday. So ekyo tekigaana oteeka ku notice nti bwe tunaasalawo era nga bwe tugenda okusalawo ng'ekibiina tuba tujja kugenda mu kooti oba tugende mu kooti. Bwe tuba tusazeewo tugenda mu kooti batulindirire tebeekwasa ekintu kyonna, bajja kubanga notice baagifuna.
Omwogezi w'ekibiina kino Joe Ssenyonyi ategeezezza nti wadde kkooti bagitadde ku notice okubeera obulindaala, abakulembeze mu kibiina kino bakutuula olunaku olw'enkya mu Ttabamiruka mwe bagenda okusinziira okusalawo ekyenkomeredde ku kugenda mu kkooti oba nedda.
Endowooza zino ebbiri zonna tuziwuliriza, zonna zirimu ensa era ng'ekibiina tuzze nga tuwaayamuko nga tusinkana ng'obukulembeze bw'ekibiina okusalawo ku nsonga eno, era weekend eno tugenda kuba ne meeting endala enaatuyamba okusalawo ekyenkomeredde. Tugenda tambula tutya kubanga tuyinza kukozesa makubo gombi, tulina okusalawo kubo ki etugenda otambuliramu, era ku bbalaza ku Mande tugenda kubuulira eggwanga ensonga eno tugenda gikwasaganya tutya, tugenda tambula tutya, tunaagenda mu kooti oba tetugende.
NUP egamba nti ekigendererwa kyabwe eky'okugenda mu kkooti kwanika President Museveni nti era bo obujulizi balina bungi ddala newankubadde ng'essuubi ttono ku kalulu kano okukyuka okusinziira mu kkooti zino.
Awo obujulizi bwo obumalira ddala tubulina. DR forms ezisinga tuzirina waliwo of course police zekyalemedde kubanga bakwata abantu bafe abaali bazikuŋŋaanyiza nga bazireeta e Kampala.
Ekibiina kya FDC nga kize kivuganya ne President Museveni ku bukulembeze bw'eggwanga lino kyakamu kuba mu mbuga z'amateeka emirundi ebiri ng'ogusooka baali basaba okubalibwa kw'akalulu ku ddemu ng'ogwokubiri baatuuka okusaba akalulu kaddibwemu okubibwa. Mu kwogerako n'omwogezi w'ekibiina kino ategeezezza nti FDC yonna etegefu okubawa obujulizi bwonna bw'erina wabula nti tebeeyibaala kubanga abalamuzi b'eggwanga lino abasinga emikono gyabwe giri ku kandooya.
Uganda ekisooka buli muntu kyetaaga agezeeko ekintu oyinza okusanga nga ye Katonda mutaddeko omukisa ogw'enjawulo. Dr. Besigye yagenda mu kkooti mu kalulu ka 2021 n'aleeta obujulizi teri yali buleeta wano mu kusimbawo kwa Uganda. Saagala kumalamu baanyi bagenda mu kkooti olw'olumu kiba kirungi ebintu ebyo ne bibeera mu likodi naye ekyo kyokka kye tuyinza bifunamu. Tetunafunayo balamuzi basobola kutunula Museveni mu mutwe ne bamugamba nti gwe Guy wabbye akalulu nga bwe gwali e Kenya nga bwe gwali e Zambia.
Ku mirundi ebiri FDC gyegenze mu kkooti abalamuzi tebasobodde kubaako kye bakyusa ku bizza birangirirwa akakiiko k'ebyokulonda. Mu nsala ya kkooti mu musango gw'awaaba Dr. Kizza Besigye mu mwaka gwa 2006 kkooti ensukkulumu yasinziira n'esalawo nti akalulu akaliwo mu mwaka ogwo tekaali kamazima na bwenkanya olw'okwetabamu ennyo abasirikale n'ebikolwa ebirala naddala ng'abakakiiko k'ebyokulonda abaanokolwayo okubanga baalina kyekubiira. Ne mu kalulu ak'omwaka ogwaggwa Amama Mbabazi yakuba President Museveni mu kkooti ng'ayagala kkooti esazeemu akalulu. Ne ku mulundi ogwo kkooti yategeezanga bingi ebitagenda bulungi wabula nti ebyo tebyalina bulabe eri kyenkomeredde ekiva mu kalulu. Shamim Nabakoza, Crown Nawali, Record TV.